Hi everybody, sanibonani. Welcome to my channel. Igama lami nguNtando Mdletshe, and on this channel sifunde iy'ncwadi ey'bhalwe ngolimi lwethu lwesiZulu bese siza la sokhuluma ngazo lezo y'ncwadi. Sixoxela phela laba abangenaso isikhathi sokuthi bayifunde iy'ncwadi nalaba abasuke benqena nje ukufunda. Siyaphinda futhi sibuka ama-reality shows ethu ala eMzansi bese siza la sokhuluma ngawo lama-reality shows, senze ama-reviews or ama-recaps bese siyaphinda futhi sikhuluma nga-any other issues avukayo uma ngabe lama-shows sesiwabukile kwi-TV. Uma ngabe uyaqala ukusijoyina namhlanje and you really like our content, do not forget to press the subscribe button la ngezansi bese upressa ne-notification bell la uzokwa-subscribe ukuze phela uthole umyalezo uma ngabe umsebenzi omusha sesiwufakile. Guys, today I cannot do ama-videos. My normal videos are more structured because as you can see, I'm busy being a mom. So, but then I thought I'm gonna do like story time for those who are interested in listening to story time. But the other videos you'll get later because I'm waiting for a caretaker to come back. I can't wait for this evening. I think also she's missing her, so she's like. She can survive a day or two. This is like a fourth day, and it's the last day, and she just can't wait for her. She actually prefers her than any of us here. So, yeah, I think that's why she's just a bit faster today. So I can't do those videos, you guys. But I thought that I'll do a story time. I don't know why I was thinking about my father's death earlier. Was it not earlier today? Izolo, I was thinking about it, the passing. Oh, let me not say death, the passing. Guys, before you listen to the story, let me give me a context. First, my father passed in 1989. I think it was 1989. So it's long time ago. So I'm not sad about his passing. And this story is also not really about his passing more than it is about the events that surrounded his passing. And also, it's my story. It's what happened to me. So it's my view on how everything happened. So if other people in my life might tell a really like different story from my story. Also, we have to remember that at the time I was like 8 years old. So this is a story of an 8-year-old child. I think for me, I wanted to tell this story only because I think as we raise kids, I know for me, as I'm raising kids, I refer to how I was raised, to some of the things that I'm making sure that I don't do with my kids are the things that were done to me, and it gives me sort of like like a guidance as to what I don't want to do a lot of the time, sometimes what I want to do, but a lot of it I refer to my childhood in terms of what I don't want to do with them, with my kids. So yeah, so I hope that if you're listening to the story, you take something from it in terms of things that we say to kids that may affect kids. Like we need to think twice before we say certain things to kids. And also, sometimes you don't know as an adult how much impact you have on a child's life. So, and then you don't pay attention to it. And sometimes you say something and it affects that child more than you think. And you move on with your life when there is an adult, but you don't know. That's why we have to be very careful when we are around ingane and what we say to them. So my father passed away in 1989. I was in standard 1. The younger generation in this channel, standard 1 is like grade 3. Standard 1 is grade 3. Unlike you guys, Tina Besnga prepared to go to school. There was no crash. You guys go to crash, go to daycare, go to grade 1 before you actually go to school. Tina, the parents would be like, ready, steady, go, and we go. grade 1, 2, standard 1, shonile, futhi bengasho ukuthi grade 1 because first year, second year, standard 1, standard 2. Shi esikoleni u-grade R for us was our older sisters ababenza abo-standard 2, standard 3 teaching us at home when we are playing umasicrozi masidlala umasicrozi bebesifundisa. That was our grade 1. That was us getting ready for school. There was no getting ready for school. After that, it was, you know, we were going. You guys are getting too prepared for school. Like right now, it's like you have to. Some schools even put it as a requirement that the child must have been in daycare. What's the daycare for? You know. Anyway, at the time it wasn't that. So I was in standard 1 at the time. I think I was 8. You guys, if I get the years like wrong, like it was long ago, you know. And yeah, I mean, my father had been sick for a while, but remember, it was in the 80s, you guys, and I was young. And at the time, Ubaba Mayigola, nobody took the time to first say, Ubaba Kuyagula. And I remember at the time sebenza, so he was out of the house for the most of the week. I think there was like 2 days where he would be off. It would be a Monday and a Tuesday, which was weird days for somebody to be off, but it was a Monday and a Tuesday. So it was like on a Monday I would go to school and come back and he's there, and then on a Tuesday, and then on Wednesday, I think then you will go to school and then you come back again, kuhambile, you know. So that's the thing. Ojwayelayo as umntwana ukuthi that is the life ekhaya. Dad is not there; he's at work, and he comes back only on these days. So when he starts being home as a child, of course you're wondering what's happening, but then at that time as a child you were not feeling like you have a right to ask what's going on, why is our father home now. But I can tell you that there was no indication for me that he was not well. I remember now that I look back at it, I remember that he started using a walk stick a lot. And when I think about it, my dad was in his 40s at the time, so if I was older, it would have been clear to me that something is not right. He's probably sick. But as a child, it was just Baba uses he walks stick now when he walks. And so obviously it was something different because every time I was calling Ubaba is there, but nobody is explaining anything as to what is happening. It's like as a child, it's nice that your dad is there when you come back from school. But also as a child, a lot of the times when there is changes with routine in the family, it affects a child because especially when the changes are not explained to a child. So it was like it's nice for him to be home. Every time I come back from school, he's home. But why is he home? You know, I don't know if you guys understand that. So I was happy, but at the same time, I was confused about it. But it was like nobody's gonna tell you what's happening. But I remember that the first time that I became aware with Baba uyagula, you know, was when like one day I was coming back from school, and this is like the first instance of really like people needing to be very careful of the things that they say in front of kids, you know. And I was coming back from school, and I think my mom and my dad had gone to the hospital, and they had asked for or hired imoto that I didn't know ukuthi yakuphi. And remember at the time, like, this is rural area, emziyazibek sisemakhaya ngaleso sikhathi, it wasn't even a lot of people that had cars. So I don't even know ukuthi bekuyimoto yakuphi leyana that took him to the hospital. And yazidlula endleleni, like it was a gravel road at that time. Yazidlula endleleni. So imoto mayidlula, when they had passed, I realized, so that's my mom and my dad in that car. And of course, as a child, I don't know where they're coming from. I'm coming from school, I'm with my friends or whatever. And then there was this guy who lived in the area, you know. And he started when the car passed, he started talking to someone else. I don't remember who the other person was, but he started talking to the other guy, and he's like, Umbonile ubaba kaMdletshe, how sick he is now. He doesn't even look like himself, you know. It's a shame how bad he looks or how skinny he looks. But it was something like that. But he was describing how sick my dad is and how different he looks. And remember, as a child, I'm not even seeing my dad as looking different. But that was the first time that I got an indication that something is wrong with my father. But it was a hateful situation that somebody was talking like that about my father, you know. And funny enough, I know I'm getting off track with this one, but I want to mention this, guys, because it's important also that we are very careful of the things that we say, you know, when people are in bad situations. And funny enough, with this particular guy, it's not like I held a grudge against him, but very late, like years later, he got sick too. And there were rumors that he was HIV positive, and he had gone to the hospital where one of somebody that in the area, it was like a similar situation, someone in the area was a nurse, and when he went to the hospital, when this particular nurse saw him, he went to him, was like, yo, you're looking like this, yeah, you're about to die, something like that, you look like death right now, the way that you look, something similar to what he had said to my dad, and that was something that he would the story that he would tell to people, that yo, this nurse said this to him or whatever, and the people that were there would tell that story. It was interesting to me how similar that story was for him, but anyway, I'm getting off track. So obviously I get home, even when you get home, when I get home, obviously they had just got in there, Babu is special and all that. But I think from that I understood that something is not right with my dad. My dad is sick. He might have been coughing a little bit more than usual, but you know, I'm a child, I'm thinking, oh, Baba, you know, you know, and yeah, but I think that's when I understood. That's why my dad is home more than usual, and it's not a good situation. And obviously as a child also I started looking at him as different. He looks different. It's nothing, there's nothing worse for a child to see your parent, especially your father's health deteriorates. I hope ukuthi uJoja ungibambe la. You know, if like when they're not looking as strong as they normally look, it's a traumatic thing. So I started noticing that he wasn't looking so well. But you know, as a child, there's very few things that will make you feel like something that will threaten you as a child. And if you eat and you are clothed and your parents are still there, your siblings are still there at home, and you are still sleeping in the house and you are warm, that's all that you need. Yes, you can hear people say, you know, your father is sick or whatever. You worry about it a little bit, but it's not. You don't worry about it too much, because you know. Remember, this was like the first death in my immediate family. It was gonna be the first death in my immediate family. So I wasn't even thinking when someone is sick, there's a possibility that they could die. So we're continuing with school and everything, and then obviously like he got like, you know, sicker and sicker, and he was home for most of the time. He was home. There were times when they would go to the hospital, I think, and they would go see abantu ababonwayo and stuff, and yeah, but eventually like he passed, and he passed at home. And when that happened, honestly, of course, like you can hear that your father he died at home. We were all at home, and obviously, my mother was crying. Everybody was crying. I remember that there was a time when I cried, but I don't remember ever crying about the fact that my father had passed, because I didn't understand what that meant. I remember crying when everybody was crying initially. When everybody, my siblings were crying, my cousins who lived with us were also crying. But I was crying because everybody was crying, you know. I understood because Ubaba Ushonile, but what that meant really honestly I didn't know. And I remember we had to, my sisters, because they were older, had to go to the neighbors to go tell the neighbors that Ushonile Baba, and I would walk with them. And it was a thing that they would say, you know, Umaute sizosho ukuthi ubaba ushonile, you know, but you don't know as a child what that is. And then I think that was like early in the morning, like early morning. Was it in summer or winter? I can't remember, but it was early in the morning. It was must have been winter, because I think it was around June, if I'm not mistaken. Because we were writing exams at school, so Yeah, I would say June. I can't remember the month my father passed, you guys. But yeah, so it was early in the morning, and we did that. We came home. When we came home, remember, those who have watched my other personal stories, you know that I always say that for me, growing up, like my school was like everything to me. And remember, I'm at home. There was six of us at home, and I'm the fifth at home, and. So there's two people after me, and then there's three before me. So like I'm a typical middle child, and I had typical middle child uh, feelings growing up. And for me, outside of our home, my safest place was a school. I wanted to be a school. That was the place where I was most recognized. And if you think about it, we were writing exams at the time. So for me, it was like I wanted to go to school. And remember, nobody has explained to me that, you know what, your father has passed, and this is what it means. It means that he's dead. You never ever going to see her again. Your life is about to change. Nobody is explaining. I just know that my father has passed away. What that means, really, I've never even seen anybody else that had passed away. So I wanted to go to school. And nobody has said to me, if your father passes away, you don't go to school. So when we came back from whatever, telling the neighbors what had happened, like we were sent, I came back and I was getting ready to go to school. And I don't know who saw that I was getting ready and um, then shouted at me, "You can't go to school, you don't go to school, Makshoni." And I was like, but I want to go to school. I'm thinking, why am I not going to go to school? Why should I not go to school? Kubhalwa ama-exam, kuyahlolwa futhi besithi kuyahlolwa at that time. Kuyahlolwa esikoleni. So why am I not going to go to school? And no one was taking the time to sit down and say, this is what is happening. And I think because my mom was just dealing with a lot at that time, and it would have been too much for her to sit me down or whatever, she just said, no, just let her go to school, you know. But then when my other aunt came later on and I was getting ready to go to school, my mother, I guess she was just trying to explain to her, was no, she wants to go to school, I guess because they're writing exams. And my aunt just lost it. Remember, I'm a child. I don't know what's happening. I just want to go to school because I want to write this exam that I'm going to miss. And remember, for me, school was the most important thing. Uphumu number one was the thing. So I wanted to just go to school. And my aunt is like, how can she, how did she put it? She's like, your father, your one and only father has just passed away. You're never ever gonna see her again, and you're telling us about going to school. Just forget about going to school. This is like the most important thing that has ever happened in your life. Remember, guys, this is something that is said to an 8-year-old. Like, your father has just passed. You're never gonna see her again, and you want to go to school. So at that time, that's when I actually realized, okay, my father being dead means that I'm never going to see her again. And I guess it's supposed to be something that is big, and we're not supposed to do anything right now. And we stayed at home. Honestly, at that time, really, a lot of the times, if you lost a parent or whatever, you would stay in school maybe for a week or two and not go to school and stuff. But I honestly just think that they should have just let you as kids go to school, because a lot of the things that would happen in that 2 weeks when a parent has died will have nothing to do with the child. Will have nothing to do. People will be walking in and out of your house to comfort your mom, and maybe some will speak to your older sister or something, but nobody will pay attention to what's happening to the younger kids. So I actually feel like the best place for me to be at that time would have been at school, honestly, because we're just sitting at home. Nobody's paying attention to us, whether okezile or udlile, or udlile, nobody really cared. So it was really is a hard time, and I just remember the feeling of, I'm supposed to understand what's going on here, but nobody's gonna take the time to make me understand it. It was the most confusing time ever, 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 ever. And And then, days go by. And at that time, schools, guys, at the time when we were used to go to school, schools were very involved in community. And if someone passes in the community, they will make sure that they collect money, the teachers collect money, and the kids collect money. And then whoever is the class teacher will have another teacher. At that time, me and my younger sister, who was in grade one or first year at the time, were in the same school. So they both came bezobona ekhaya and bring the collection. So at school they would know what you lost your parent. So days go by and the funeral comes, and the funeral is here. And funeral day, I don't remember even being in that tent. Let me not say I don't remember. I was never in that tent where the funeral was. I don't remember whether I even did bath and got dressed for just because, and that's how it goes in the rural areas, guys. Maybe it has changed now. The kids are not paid attention to when it comes to such things. And the funeral took. I can't tell you who spoke at my father's funeral. I can never tell you how the coffin looked like, and I can never tell you how my father looked like. I think I do have a memory of us being called to go see my father, but I don't have a memory of how he looked like because I wasn't important. I wasn't important. I remember because ekhaya kungasemgaqweni but kusendaweni ephezulu. Our house is like endaweni ephezulu and there's umgwaqo phansi. And I remember standing mase bephuma beya emathuneni because he was buried in community grave sites, not egcekeni like we normally do emakhaya. And I remember standing at the edge of. I'm sorry, you guys, but I was standing at the edge of the yard, and I was looking at like the cars and the hearse. I remember what's that time I wasn't sad. I think it makes me sad for that 8-year-old now when I think about it. And I was just looking at everybody go, and I think there were other kids there. And we never went to the grave sites. And I remember standing there, not even like knowing, like that, like not knowing if we are supposed to follow them to the grave sites. And I think someone else just asked, I think maybe a relative or something, and said, "What are the kids going?" And somebody said, "No, they don't need to go." And everybody left. And we were left at home, and then they went to the grave sites and they came back. And I never saw my father's, grave that day. I don't think that, I think people that would have been like, she needs to go or they need to go as kids were also grieving at the time, so they did not like have a chance to think about it. But and then that was it. And the following day, we had to on a Sunday cut our hair and do whatever it is that traditionally you do as a family. And then I remember now being scared to ask if, like, the following day we were gonna go to school because I really just wanted to go to school. I wanted to just go back to school. And then I don't know how long it took, but I just remember like days following that being scared to ask was when are we gonna go back to school because we had to spend a few days not going to school. So then we eventually went back to school. I don't know if I asked or one morning we wake up and my sister was getting ready for school, and I assumed that okay, today we go to school, and we went to school. And I remember being scared to ask my mother for pocket money for school because I knew, even though I was a child, I knew that the person that was the breadwinner at home was my father. And what my father used to do, he always came back with those money bags from the bank. You know, those that are written like a standard bank or something. He always came back with those, with coins. Every time he would come, he's off work, he would come back with those plastic bags with coins, like, oh, 20 cent money. And that's the money that my mom used to use to give us to go to school. So obviously, as a child, I understand that that money is probably not there. So I was scared to ask. But I think when we say no, we go back, we go to school, and then my mother gave us money and stuff. And then we go back to school, and then we go to school. Now there's a lot of other things that happened that week while we were preparing for the funeral, that every time I wanted to do something and somebody would just like shout at me, "You don't do that when someone has died." But I didn't know. So the whole week that was my thing. You wanna go play with your friends. You can't go play with your friends. Kushoni, you everything. But it's not like it's being told to you with kindness. Nobody is kind about it. It's like people are irritated. Kushoni, when you wanna do things that are not supposed to be done. Makshoni, what is wrong with you? That was the thing. So when I went back to school, I was scared. It was like, like if you take a potato and you like, before you cook it, you like chop it. Like, it felt like that week that was what was happening to me. It's like, uh, is it on my personality, but something that my personality had changed. I was like a different person when I went back to school. But it wasn't because my father had died. It was because of everything that had happened surrounding my father dying. Like I say, I never cried about the fact that my father died. Even now as I cry, I'm not crying about the fact that my father died. It's just the sadness that surrounds how that 8-year-old was treated, and not to blame even anyone. People didn't know. People were dealing with their own things. So then uh, I go back to school. Now I'm not myself at school. I'm scared to do anything because, of course, they're gonna say you're not supposed to play when you're not supposed to play when Mark shown you, but nobody's gonna say until when. Nobody's gonna say you're not supposed to play for like the next 2 weeks or whatever. So you're just supposed to figure out how long. So when I went back to school, I remember obviously they're friends, even though it's kids. As much as kids can be mean, but kids can be very kind. So they know who's Ushonele, and I think they wanted to come and be like, "No, come and play with us." I remember them just begging me, "Come and play with us," and I'm like, "No." Not because I didn't want to play, but partly because I was sad, but partly because I was scared that I'm not supposed to play Ushoni. But I don't know how long that is supposed to be because I need tissues. I made a mistake and I um, didn't bring some tissues here. I don't know. Yeah, but anyway, so I got back to school. And because I hadn't written an exam, remember, I don't want to fail. That is not something that I want to happen. So I go through, I think after a long time of thinking about it, because the teacher didn't want. Remember, when I go back to school, okay, let me give you this background about the teacher because this is very important. And if there's any teachers here who are my viewers, guys, maybe there's something that you can take away from this. When I was doing grade 1, which was the first year at the time, I knew the teacher that I wanted to go to be in her class when I was doing standard 1. So when I did the first year, second year, I was waiting to go to that teacher's place. I was praying to go to that teacher's place because I loved her. She was I don't know. I just loved it. She was smart. She used to dress very smart, and I just loved it. I don't know why I loved that teacher. And when we were moving from second year to standard one, they would cue us, and then they would say grade one, not grade one, 1A, 1B, 1C, 1A, 1B, 1C. You know that thing. So I counted people, and then I changed my position, and I counted from the front to make sure that I go to her class. That's how much I love that. So when I ended up in that class, that was the most exciting thing then that I'm in her class. I loved my teacher. So when I came back from my father, dealing with my father's death to school now, because they had come to my home with the other with my sister's teacher. I'm thinking she is understanding because she knows what happened. So for a while that day, I think that first day, I didn't say anything about the fact that I haven't written in the exam. And I don't know if she was giving back my exercise book for the test that um and then she was, I don't know, I think she must have been giving back my test exercise books, and then obviously I didn't get any. She was, I don't know if you were supposed to say how much you got, and then I think a child that sat next to me ended up saying, but ma'am, she didn't write akapalanga, but ma'am akapalanga it's bekshoniwe. She gets irritated, this teacher, and she says, why wouldn't you come to me and tell me what awubhalanga? As a child, I'm thinking she knows who's angibhalanga because she even came to my house with the other teacher, and nomnikelo, so uyazi ukuthi angibhalanga. And then and then she goes, listen here, besho kumina lalala, akumina engithe ubabakho akashone, yezwa, akumina engithe ubabakho, oh no, but okay. First, she gets irritated, and then she goes out whatever book like test. And remember, at that time, it's ballet boarding. So, she ballet test boarding question one, question two, question three. They wipe it out. So, she was gonna have to do that for me. So she did that for me. But I think at some point I couldn't see the question, and I went to a board and I'm like, I can't see what's one now, who's one. But I had a question about what was on the board. And then I go and I ask her, and then she just lost it on me. Like, listen, I'm meaning to ubabako agashone. So don't something like don't make your problems mine. Finding ngibhale yonke lento for you, just you right now, and I don't want to do it. When I tell you that that was one of the biggest disappointments that I had in my life, kulowa thisha lowana, especially because it was her. So I just went and I sat down and I wrote whatever. At that time, it was like, as a child, I'm thinking, I just don't care anymore. I'll just write whatever and just keep quiet. And I think honestly, that time was the time that changed who I could have been. I really think it did because I think for the rest of my school years, I was fighting to get back to who I was before then because I had to understand that that treatment was wrong. That treatment was wrong. And as a child, you don't understand. You just think like there is something wrong with me. I'm not getting something here. Guys, I don't know why I didn't get stitches. I didn't even think I was gonna cry about this. But I honestly, I really just, I think that just made me go like inside myself. Like all of me just went inside, and I was different after that. And I remember that in those exams, I didn't do very well. That's why I'm thinking that it was June exams, I think, because I remember I did well. Like I think I was in the top five, but I was in like number one. And I remember just I couldn't wait to get out of that class, yellow teacher. And after that, I never trusted old teacher at all. And I think even in standard two, I was in my favorite teacher's class, but I didn't enjoy being there because I never trusted teachers. And it went on. I remember even when I went to a higher primary, because we had lower primary and high primary, there was this one teacher, Miss Mbelo, that loved me. But it was like I just didn't trust it. It's one of those teachers that followed me even after I had left school and stuff. I never trusted teachers for me. And so that's why I think that that was around June, because I remember I didn't do well, but then the end of the year exams came again. I was just like in my books. I wasn't playing so much with my friends and stuff. And I don't know. I didn't think I was gonna cry here. And then I remember, because my babies are married at the end of the year, they will call us with the assembly, and they will call for each and every class. They would, which used to be such a good thing to do. They would recognize, make recognize. I don't know. It was a good thing to do, but not at the same time, because for those kids that were not really making that top three or whatever, I guess it wasn't good for them. But I think for me, because I was always in that group, it was good for me to get the recognition. But I do recognize that for other kids, it might not have been. So I think at the end of the year, like end of November, then they did that in school where they would call for every class the top three. And I remember before she called, the principal called, because the principal would know. That's why I say, because at that time the school was part of the community more than the schools are now. So she would know which kids had lost their parents, which kids had issues at home, and at the end of the year, so with my class, she called everybody, did all of the recognitions, and then she called for academics. Then she called the number three, number two, and then before she called number one, she was like, "This one is going to surprise everybody." And for me, this was the biggest surprise this year, that this particular person got these results. And then she called my name, and she said, "Oh yes," she said, because she did lose her father. And I think when she said that, I knew that it was me, and I had gotten into position one. I think I was more happy to be getting out of that class. And I don't think honestly that she was a bad teacher, but I think that sometimes we don't recognize the impact that we have in people around us as people. And she was just being herself and irritated that day, and it was a wrong day for me, and it really like had a negative impact. Even when I had left that school a long time ago, like when people would talk about that teacher and how nice she is, I remember I always just thought she's not that nice. She's not that nice. But you guys, I wanted to tell that. So because for me, even like recently when because in 2014 we lost my younger sister, who comes just before or just after me. And one thing that I wanted to make sure that it happened at home was that the kids understood that someone had died. Like her kids understood that she had passed, that my kids understood. There were a lot of kids at home, like grandchildren now, because we're all grown. So I wanted to make sure that all of the kids understood that your aunt has passed. That means that you'll never see her again. Is there anything that you want us to do to support you? When it was time to go see her, people would say, "No, the kids don't need to see her. I would ask the kids, "Do you guys want to see your aunt?" And some of the kids said yes, they do. Some of the kids said no, they don't. So I think that I wanted to share this story because maybe you can learn the same thing, and also maybe you are in that position where you might possibly say something that might affect a child and you don't know, and we need to be careful. And also maybe you're a teacher at school. There probably things that the things that you say and do don't affect children as much, but they do because some of those children really like look up to you, and when you're careless with your words, it might uh, affect them for like the rest of their lives. Anyway, that was my story time, guys. I'm sorry if this was said, and it still surprises me to this day that even the sadness that I feel while telling this story is not really about my dad. It's not really about losing my dad. I do feel like it was his time and it was hard and it was sad because life was hard after he was gone. But I really feel like things could have been so much different for me had people understood that I needed guidance at the time. But at the same time, they couldn't give me what they didn't have themselves. So, yeah, I hope that one child from this story will be treated with kindness just because I was able to just tell this story. Anyway, you guys, please like the video and share it with your friends, with your family, and even with strangers in the channel.